of being Maxine's biological sister and her sorority sister. Maxine was 8 years older than me, and there's 2 others in between us. But Maxine was initiated in Zeta Iota chapter in the spring of 1982, and I was initiated in Gamma Iota chapter in the spring of 1987. And so I thought it was kind of neat that we both had Iota, kind of in common. But Maxine was there when I pledged those last 3 days, and she pinned me on that particular day. Professionally, Maxine worked at NIU, and she worked her way up in the ranks. She started out as, a student worker in the kitchen, and she was a cook, and she worked her way up upon her retirement. She was the director of student housing and food service, and so that's that. Additional to being a professional cook, she was obviously a great cook as well. And so she, because she worked with students in the dorms.
It's really hard to bury a friend. For the record, I'm Cynthia Brown Greenwood, and today is January 27th, 2019. I've known Kathleen since the 1970s, possibly the 1960s when I was a child. Her mother, Gloria Patterson, and her brother, Augustus, were members of our church, Friendship Baptist Church. So our families were interwoven, to some respects, 2, 3, 4 generations. And so we had an unspeakable friendship. It was lasting, it was pure, and it was over a long period of time. It's hard to talk about Kathleen. That Kathleen and I had grew closer once she became a member of Delta Sigma Theta. Her through Glen, Ellyn area Alumnae chapter, me through Zeta Iota chapter at Northern Illinois University where she worked. I chose to speak about Kathleen because I know Kathleen would have done the same for me. That's just the type of person she is. Kathleen worked in the financial aid office at NIU and the career planning and placement office. She was passionate about helping others. She helped so many students stay in school, getting them money, making sure they had a career path when they
Shirley was always her roommate for conference and conventions. So when Shirley relocated, I became the roommate.
No choice either.
And no choice, no. She told me, I'm the roommate. And I was her roommate, care mate, where you go and mate, what took you so long, mate? I was all of that. But have to. Why you going to that? What you buy the dinner? What did you buy this time? But I have to share that after quite a long time doing that, we were in Wisconsin for Regional Conference Milwaukee. And she said, I drove her car. So I went to pick the car up. but there were a long line of people picking up their cars. So when I got back, she wanted to know, well, what took you so long? And she was so serious. I said, Gary, Gary. You have to remember that I actually paid for this car just like you did. So Gary, you have to be a little better with me. And she apologized, but that was my Gary. I have to love her dearly and still do.
Thelma loved, she enjoyed jokes. She loved them. She loved to play games. Now, let me tell you about Thelma and Dr. Sigma Theta. She loved the chapter. And we were the first line. So I guess we was kind of special. And you guys were special to us. However, Thelma came up with the bright idea that we should buy a gift for the chapter every June 4th because that's our anniversary. Thelma found a guy that did rings, and this is one. She gave me this ring. She had a special one for herself. And before, she knew that she was a dementia, and she knew that she was very, beginning to be forgetful. Now, Thelma's daughter is a soror, but she wanted me to have her ring. And I said, well, Debbie is a soror, aren't you? She said, no, I want you to have it. I want you to have it now. Why? I have the mindset to know. So I treasure it. And so she gave it to me. So I would always, my children loved her, and I did too. I would always miss her. She was my soror, she was our soror, she was our leader. Thank you. Soror degree had been initiated at Gamma Omicron chapter. Now, what is extremely interesting is that Soror Thomasin Leon was a pyramid in that chapter at the time that Soror degree had served as chapter president. By the time that Soror degree had joined us, she had been a Delta for about 48 years, okay? So sometimes we tend to make a lot of assumptions about our older sorors. Soror Dacre, on the other hand, was a guru of all things technology. As she said to me shortly after she joined the chapter, well, Soror Grace, I really don't have time to attend those meetings. I said, you don't? She said, I'm taking a graphics class every Saturday morning. I said, okay, well, fine. And the time came of where we needed to present her 50-year plaque. I said, well, will you at least do us the honor of showing up on that Saturday? And she said, I think that I can fit it into my schedule. So she did, and we presented it to her.
Lori was my biological first cousin. So, and I'm 4 years older than Lori. So she was my Cabbage Patch doll. Lori was the one who finally got me to pledge Delta. So it was quite a change from my Cabbage Patch doll. Now I'm calling her Big Sister. Lori pledged at Ada chapter, Western University, and she loved Delta. She loved it to her heart. And she loved Glen Ellyn chapter. Even when she left Illinois, she moved to Mobile, she moved to Philadelphia. She never joined another chapter. She was a Glen Ellyn Delta to her heart. And if you knew Lori, she was a kind-hearted person, and she would give of herself all that she could give. She was an avid cook. She was an avid seamstress. She was an avid gardener.
Good afternoon. I am presenting Soror Judy Hill. Soror Hill was initiated into Ada chapter at Western Illinois in May of 1975. She was number 3 on a line of 6. She was also a legacy as her mother was also a soror. While she was online, she was nicknamed Earbobs because of her love for jewelry. She was also a fashionista and an excellent dancer. Soror Hill in her profession was an educator and taught in the Aurora school system. Soror Hill passed into Omega chapter in January of 2012.
Her profession was an educator. She loved working with the children. She enjoyed singing and especially roller skating. I can attest to the fact that she loved to sing because in our group of 10 sisters, we had a song that we tried to sing called, and it was a song that was recorded by Sister Sledge. Anybody remember that?
We are family.
We are family. I wouldn't dare try to sing it. She's not here to sing it. But that was our song, and she was the leader of that song. And we had to rely on her to do all of the singing for us. I have something else I want to share with you, and this is kind of serious to me. Not kind of, it is serious in that if she was here today, this reading that I'm about to do would reflect what I saw in her in 1979. I saw a beautiful person, a giving person, a loving person.
I want to say she was, indeed influential in us making sure that we followed through on our decision to become members of Delta Sigma Theta. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to let her know that I had fulfilled, my goal to be going to Delta. But Tara was able to let her know, and my cousin Tamara was able to let her know. And my cousin was initiated at Delta Epsilon at what was Alcorn A&M at the time that she was there. She actually did tell us a story about how she got to Alcorn, and essentially it was because she was following Medgar Evers, who at that particular time was very active in the civil rights movement. And so they felt like it would be an honor for them to go there as opposed to go to Jackson State.
Good afternoon. I'm presenting Dorothy McIntosh. Soror McIntosh was initiated in March 1961 in the Gamma Gamma chapter at Philander Smith College. Dorothy was a prominent realtor in DuPage County. She consistently made $1 million sales year after year, and because of this, she started her own realty company. She was the first African American to do so in the area. Her specialty was relocating corporate clients. Dorothy's daughter was the Glen Ellyn area alumni chapter's first Miss Jabberwock. Dorothy entered into the Omega Omega chapter in 2013.
The Beta Iota chapter at the University of Columbia. By profession, she was an educator and worked as a teacher and counselor. I knew Soror Phillips long before our Soror Director, Diane Ingram, relocated her to Naperville. I would see her every year at Diane's home during the Christmas holidays when I would go there. She was such a special person, such a kind, soft-spoken person, so we just kind of clicked right away. So much that I would even call her in D.C. sometimes. And once she moved here, and I came to her more often, then she got on my list of souvenir people, and I wanted to bring a souvenir back. And she was just so excited when I brought it over, and she would say, at that point she had moved to the senior citizens living facility, and she would say, they're gonna know, where did you get that? Who gave that to you? So she was very, very happy to get any gift that I brought her. She retired from employment in healthcare financing, but she was not satisfied with just sitting at home and doing nothing. So she wanted to serve as counsel for court excellence, where she was very instrumental in ensured the processes for jury selections were fair, effective, and that they were not unduly burdensome in the community. So we just enjoyed seeing her coming to the meetings. She was just so happy. And we had the opportunity to celebrate her birthday with her several times. Now, if you look at 1939, when she was initiated, that means she was at Delta for 80 years. 80 years. We are only 106 years old. So that means almost 75% of the time that we've been in existence, Soror Phillips has been a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority. And that's such a beautiful thing. And again, because she started college at age 16, they had a lot to do with it as well.
She served on the social action committee. I had not met her, and she kind of became active and wanted to become more active in Glen Ellyn. And she joined the committee, and I was like, oh, I thought she was new. So I was like, oh, nice to meet you. She was like, I've been around. And she had been involved with Delta long before, so it was really refreshing to see a soror become more active that had already been in Delta. And I think it was at that meeting that she went from being Soror Vivian to Viv. And she was called by people who loved her.
Ever have the pleasure of actually meeting and knowing Soror Denise Powell. She was the twin sister of Soror Elise Gardner. Sora Gardner, as compared to Soror Powell, is very soft-spoken. And what I'm trying to say is that Soror Powell, my Denise, had a vibrant, booming voice, life, and personality. She was initiated into Glen Ellyn in 1982. At the time that I met her, I actually met Elise and Denise at the same time. It was early 2001. We were on our way to the vote for the line in 2001. And Elise and Denise didn't know how to whisper. Okay? And Elise still does not know how to whisper, okay? So, so we came into COD actually at the same time. And they're just having a conversation as twins, doing everything then. And I just kind of, I joined in. I became a triplet almost then. So in the fall of 2002, Soror Shirley G. Johnson named Denise as the chair for educational development. I have the pleasure of serving as her co-chair. The thing about Denise is that she was a hard worker and she loved children. She had a passion for children. And she collected them even if they didn't want to be collected. So our Delta Academy and the gyms, it was a huge group then. There were young ladies who she knew from her church, from Girl Scouts. There were girls, I don't know where we picked them up from then, but we all had them. And Denise had this big green van. And this is in the days of where we did not have a whole lot of rules and regulations about risk management. So she carted around girls all the time then in that van. And two of my stories about Denise, one was we were taking the students to see the Universal Soul Circus. And Denise and Elise were going on a trip. So Denise had made all the arrangements in terms of the trip and the luncheon. Well, the problem was she decided for lunch we were going to have White Castles and drive them from Naperville with a stop in Maywood over to the city to Washington Park. Now, if you have never rode on a school bus with White Castle hamburgers, you probably don't understand. It's a little pungent, okay then. So, and so therefore, I just remember though then, if you deviate from the plan, I'll get a call from her. And so I just said, you know something, it doesn't matter. It does not matter how they smell, we will take them on. My second story was, this was in the fall of 2004, and the chapter had won not a regional award, but the National Exemplary Program Award for Educational Development. We were flying high. We had a committee meeting at my house. Everybody was so excited and everything. And Denise was at the meeting and she blessed out everybody in the meeting except for me.
Oh, really?
And not because it was not not because it was my house. But she went to like every single person and she challenged each of them then. Are you going to do the job that is necessary in order to continue? Are you going to serve? And she went. She got you, Carolyn, and a lot of other people that were at the meeting. So I'm just standing over by my sink and I'm thinking, okay, so what does she have in store for me? And when it was my turn, she looked at me and she said, and Regina, you're a co-chair doing a chair's job. And I looked at her and I said, well, okay, I'll accept that because everybody else just got cussed out. So, I'm good with that then. what I did not realize is that she was actually preparing us for her transition. Today marks the 14th anniversary of the passing of Soror Denise Powell into Omega Chapter. And the reason that that date stays with me is that she passed on the 8th birthday of my youngest daughter. And my daughters loved her so much. I could not tell my daughter until the next day. So this morning, as I spoke with her, as she called me, which reminded me that it was her birthday, okay. I told her that I was coming here today and what Elise had asked of me. And she said, I loved her, Mommy. And I said, I know that you did, and she loved you too, and she did all of the rest of the girls. So if you did not have the pleasure of knowing her, you missed a treat. She was a delightful, like I said, bigger than life woman, and I miss her and I cherish her. Soror Denise Powell.
Esther Trotter remained true to her sacred word of honor. She loved Delta ideas and faithfully attempted to realize them in her daily life. She sought to be compassionate, loving as a sister, tender-hearted, and humble-minded. She lived fully and laughed often. She appreciated earth's beauty. She looked for the best in others and gave the best she had. Her life was an inspiration, and her memory will be a benediction.
Mary Wade, initiated in May 1982, Glen, Ellyn area alumni chapter. She was an educator and served as assistant principal at Simmons Middle School in Aurora. She was a member of the West Towns Links Incorporated. Her hobbies included gardening, golf, tennis, and camping. Mary joined Omega chapter in May of 2003.
Soror Muriel Watkins. Soror Muriel Watkins was one of Glen Ellyn area alumni chapter's charter members. Soror Watkins was initiated in April 1937. Soror Watkins was the most senior of our chartering group. Along with her age came wisdom. Soror Watkins was a well-recognized lawyer in the western suburban area, and especially in Maywood. She was an advocate for the men and women in the Maywood and Chicago areas. Muriel spoke with a raspy, deep voice, which we found out later was due to thyroid surgery that injured her vocal cord. It did not keep her from speaking and representing the public in the courtroom. One year, Soror Muriel Watkins was the Founders Day speaker for the Glen Ellyn area chapter. We were well enlightened by her as to the struggles of the women in the past and enlightened as to what professional women and all women had to go through. Soror Watkins encouraged us as Delta women.
I happened to ask Catherine, do you know any Deltas? And she looked at me and she says, I'm a Delta. And all of these years, we had no idea that both of us were Deltas. So as a result, when we got ready to secure Delta women to start the chapter, Catherine was the one that told us about Miriam Watkins, Hazel Dandridge, all these people I'd been going to church with, but never knew that they were Deltas. So she was instrumental in getting together the core group of sorors to start Glen Ellyn area Alumnae chapter. Catherine also was a connoisseur of cookies. You could give her a cookie and she could tell you if it were Keebles or not. She said, oh, this is not a Keebles. No, I know my cookies. So she was a connoisseur of cookies. She was very generous. She was as kind as she could be, and she was also very active in church. And Catherine joined the Omega Omega chapter in November of 2001. She had relocated to Texas to spend more time with her son.
Was a Glen Ellyn area alumni chapter charter member. She was initiated in April of 1957 through Delta Epsilon chapter at Alcorn State University. By profession, she was an educator and worked as a counselor at Proviso East High School. She was a mother of 3 sons and a member of St. Paul Lutheran Church of Merrill's Park, Illinois. She enjoyed cooking and baking, sewing, and bowling. Soror Mary Wells also sold my prom dress in 1984. She was a woman that I enjoyed seeing in the hallways at Proviso East High School. She always had a smile on her face and was always open to speaking to anyone who had any concern. Soror Mary Wells joined the Omega Omega chapter in July of 2001.
What I remember most about Alice was her infectious smile and her big personality. Oh, and I don't want to forget her love for leather. She had leather everything. But she was way more than that to many people. When I pledged the Glen Ellyn chapter, the chapter was small. I believe it was less than 40 people. It afforded us the ability to interact more personally. Big Sister Alice at the time was part of my pledge process. During that time, we did most of our activities in homes. We weren't under the rules of where you must have all the things you must do. Although my line was part of the new intake process, we were experiencing, she says overnight deltas. I didn't feel like it was overnight, however. But anyway, she always was kind to my line, except when she was part of the group that said we couldn't cook. But Janice showed them otherwise. Alice pledged through Glen Ellyn and worked alongside her line sister, Marlene Rickman, orchestrating many successful Jaguars. Now, I didn't pay attention to money like Gary did, but I do remember we raised some big money back then, real big money. I don't think I've seen money like that since then. As life happens, other priorities took over. Sometimes family presents you with many challenges. She faced them all with love. The one I remember most was her taking in two infant children they were girls and they belonged to her sister. And she raised those girls to adulthood. And to my knowledge today, I saw them at her funeral. And they turned out to be just lovely young ladies. And it just made me smile. Professionally, Alice was an educator. I always chuckled at the name of her school, Lucy Flowers, I believe it was. You know, she was well respected when students that long since graduated attended her funeral. Socially, Alice loved line dancing, and she and her husband Charles loved to travel, and they belonged to a motorcycle club. The last time I saw Alice, she sat next to me at a Founder's Day. I was quite surprised because she had been faced with serious health challenges. Alice had had two go-arounds of cancer. She had beat it one time, and then the next time it flared its ugly head, she succumbed to it. I was so happy to see her, and yes, she had on leather. Alice was initiated through Glen Ellyn in 1982, and she entered the Omega in April 2017.